So I'm just curious to know how a French actress ends up portraying the sister of a Chilean miner, and how important was Patricia in talking to you and telling you, you can do this.
She's the one, yeah, that really pushed me and saying, well, you don't know Chilean people, but there are a lot of mix, you know, you would be a perfect Chilean woman. And also she saw me as a Bosnian, you know, in playing a seamstress in Anthony Minghella, Breaking and Entering. So for her it was possible to see me play a Chilean. And when I met with Maria Segovia, the real person, when we look at each other's eyes, I said to her, well, I'm sorry, I'm not Chilean. And she said, don't worry, it's not about that.
The 33 takes place, story mostly we know underground, but actually it's equally important above ground. What happened there with the families fighting, with the politicians, with the people, the technicians. How important is that aspect of the story where your character is key, by the way?
Well, it's really a key to the story, because if there were not the women yelling and demanding justice and wanting to have information, never this story would have happened that way. You know, we never would have had a resolution, because nobody wanted to spend money to save 33 men. I mean, not the government. They were not involved because it was a private mine. And the owners of the private mine didn't know what to do, didn't have the money to do anything. And also because it happens a lot that a lot of miners, they die in mines. That's part of the game. But the thing is, because there was no security that was really done for this mine, it became, you know, very traumatic, because the laws were not there to protect the miners in these conditions. So the women yelling so much and being at the gates right on when it happened, as soon as they got information, and the journalists coming the next day, you know, the camera, and Maria Segovia was a very kind of a loud, she's a loud woman, you know, she speaks out loud her truth, she's natural in that way, and when the government saw the information coming out, then they came and they wanted to do something and used somehow this event to lift the whole community together. And they spend the money, they spend, you know, call the people, you know, put engineers into it, allowed help from outside to come and help, because they didn't know how to do it. There was a moment because the rock was so hard. So the women, they were she's a catalyst, Maria Segovia, the woman I play in this film. She was somehow the initiator, the initiator, you say?
Yes.
Of this move up to save those men.
And not just yelling. I mean, this woman's a force of nature. There's a moment she slaps the Minister of Mining.
Well, actually, that was made for the film, I have to say, because, you know, it's 69 days. You have to put in an hour and a half. But they had a very strong conflict to start with, because Maria Segovia was, you know, she wouldn't let go. She was probably because she knew so much about survival, and she took those 33 men like her man. You know, it was not only about her brother; it was about all the men. It was like a symbolic. We have to find a solution no matter what. So it's a proof of faith.
Anyway, the person you confront isn't the real minister. It's Rodrigo Santoro playing him. But what can you say about Rodrigo? Because I thought he was, again, so chameleonic. We've seen him in so many different roles. How is it to shoot those scenes with him? You fighting for your family, him trying his best.
It was great. We got along very well. The slapping scene, actually, it was kind of a surprise, because you know, I did it false, and it was not strong enough. And then they said, yeah, go for it. And then I went for it. But then the poor him, you know, Rodrigo, he will remember that slap until the end of his life. I think I felt so horrible after. But, you know, in the motion of action, when you're so convinced, it's very hard to control yourself. But he asked me, so, you know, I shouldn't blame myself.
We're laughing about that, but the truth is that I've spoken this with the rest of the cast and the director.
Did he tell you about it?
Not yet, but I've spoken with the director and the cast, that the movie has humor. It could have gone just the route of tragedy and but there are moments that are funny, both underground and on top. And I thought that's important.
You know, well, when we're going through terrible period of times, you want to laugh sometimes because it feels so absurd. Because life feels so absurd, so you want to laugh about things. That's also how you change your consciousness, is that suddenly you have another point of view and say, this is so crazy. How can I be in that situation? So it's where, there's humor possible, there's humanity possible, and consciousness changing possible.
And your character becomes a spokesperson of that message that you lead over ground of not giving up. And Antonio Banderas, down in the mine, is also the one that says, no, we're not giving up. How important is that message in this movie, and what did you think of Antonio's performance?
I'm not a journalist. Well, and Antonio felt very responsible for the story, and you see that he's so, he's really believing everything he's saying, because he felt that the need of telling the story in the whole world. What was your first?
What do you think of that message of just not giving up?
Well, you should never give up. Not only for others, but also for yourself.
I also wanted to ask you, it is rare to have the luxury of work on a movie that's shot on location like this movie was. It could have been done in a studio. They didn't choose to do that. How was the experience for you?
Well, I went to visit, mines and feeling that, and seeing the conditions of people's life, and it's very informative. And of course, when you have the chance to be in that situation, as an actor, it's always better, because then you're more related to the story, you're more into it. Yeah.
And I think it's important that the movie also has a female voice behind the camera. I thought Patricia Regan did an extraordinary job. You work with many directors. What can you say about Patricia that made her right for this job?
She was brave, because she was surrounded mostly around men, mostly during the more than half of the film, and she had to be strong. She told me stories that, it was not easy every day for her, but she's really stay on the ground, and her DP was actually her husband, so they had a lot of also, up and down things, but they were a team. They were a real team. She was very brave and strong. She loves actors, so it was very easy to work with her. There's something in her. She loves